こんにちは。私は Hakon です。今日はもっと日本語を学びましょう。Hello, my name is Hakon, and today let's learn some more Japanese. So last time I went through my new sheet of characters, just so a nice thing to have, and freely available to download and share and distribute as you like, within some limitations. And I'll put the link in the description and maybe in the comments of this video as well, and possibly in all of my Japanese videos. Very useful to have. And today I promised I would tell you some loan words, foreign words in Japanese, just to show you some of the uses of katakana in Japanese texts, and also show you some examples of the additional set of characters that isn't part of the standard Japanese syllabary. So that is the she, je, ta, tu, da, no, sorry, ti, tu, di, du, che, fa, fi, fe, fo, wa, we, wo, no, we, we, wo, va, vi, vu, ve, vo, qua, quo, sa, si, se, so. And of course, some of those are more common to use than others in Japanese. I think there's actually very few of those that would exist in a sort of a more normalized word in Japanese, but there are a few of them. One thing you do realize quite quickly when you see Japanese loan words that have been introduced into Japanese is that they do tend to follow the phonetics of the standard Japanese language, the hiragana characters. If this usually would be written in a way that could have been written in hiragana as well as katakana. Right, let's do some examples. So I'm sort of moving off to the side here. So we have, just double checking I'm within shot. I am within shot. Okay, so she plus a half size e becomes she. And then we have a doubling of the vowel she. And we have ku, su. He with a handakuten becomes pi. And Shakespeare. 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 That means Shakespeare in Japanese. Shakespeare. The playwright, if anyone wondered. Other ones, let's see, we have she, but we add the dakuten, so it becomes ji. Again, we add the half size e, so that becomes je. Su, chi, small half size ya becomes cha. And then we have a vowel doubling. Gesture. 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 That means gesture. And you can already see some of the pattern in which Japanese people would transcribe foreign words into Japanese, certainly for English words. Those when words ends in ear in English, you get ear in Japanese. So an e sound followed by a, ear. And when you get an gesture, sound sound in English, that becomes an a long r sound in Japanese. So of course the diphthongs in English, most diphthongs in English are actually just a lengthening of a single vowel, and when you make it long, it has to become a diphthong. And in Japanese, they tend to make those into long vowels as opposed to diphthongs, because they don't technically have diphthongs in Japanese. Gesture, cha, gesture, gesture. And also the R's at the end here are not pronounced in standard British English unless there's a vowel following the word. And those R's that are silent in a non-rhotic, it's called, a non-rhotic variety of English. Non-rhotic means it doesn't get those R's pronounced. Is that R is not going to be part of the Japanese word. It's not going to be gescharu or Shakespeare in Japanese. It's Shakespeare and gescha. Right, next one. Te plus small e becomes ti. Then we have a small tsu, which means that the following consonant is being doubled. And the following consonant is a shi, but it is followed by a small u, which means it's a shu. So tishu, tishu. And that is tissue. One thing you will notice, by the way, when you double consonants in Japanese, if it is a stop, that is to say it's a t, d, b, k, p, then what you would pronounce, of course, when you're doing a double consonant, isn't that you actually pronounce the consonant for twice as long. You have a pause before you pronounce it. Let me give an example. The word for bed, for instance, beddo, beddo. Whereas in a liquid, that is the sound that is sort of can be pronounced over time, like s and sh. Then it becomes tissue. The s is pronounced all the way through. Tissue. It's not tissue. It's tissue. And beddo. These are things you won't really have to think so much about. It becomes quite natural to hear them. This is true of lots of languages, actually, that have any kind of consonant doubling. For instance, like Italian, for instance, when you have also that sort of lengthening of sound. That aren't that dissimilar, actually, to Japanese in that sense. Otherwise, I don't think Italian and Japanese have that much in common, to be honest. Right, tissue. Let's see. So we have to plus a small u becomes tu. Mo, ro, long o, so ro, ra, n, and do. Tomorrow Rando. Tomorrowland. That is Tomorrowland, which I think is something in Disneyland, I believe. Tomorrowland. Now this is another one where you can see that thing that you have row, tomorrow. We have that a diphthong in English that actually is quite a long vowel, tomorrow. It becomes a row in English, row in Japanese. L's invariably become R sounds in Japanese. Rando, land. Tomorrowland. Tomorrowland. Let's see, what else have we got? A D. So a plus a small e, that becomes d. Su, ko, disco, disco. That is disco. Do plus a small, u becomes do. Ni, so do ni, and then we have mu, do ni mu. That is denim in Japanese. Now you would perhaps think that, why isn't that denim? or denimu in Japanese, because that is something that easily could be done in Japanese. But it's denim, dunimu. Why is it dunimu? I don't know actually, but it is possible that it is from denim. Let's do the word denim in English. Where does denim come from? Well, it's from French. In English, it is from. This is a little bit of an aside. This has nothing to do with Japanese now. Bleu de Nîmes. That's been an S, isn't it? Bleu de Nîmes in French means blue from Nîmes. So it is blue from the town city of Nîmes, which is one of the places in France where they would have they would weave cloth and they would dye it with indigo. So you had that denim blue colored cloth, and that would come from Nîmes. And that is what turned into the word denim in English, denim. Denim, and of course if it comes from French into Japanese, if you can imagine that, then dunimu does actually sound a little bit more logical. Dunimu is closer to denim. So it is possible that this word came into Japanese from French as well. While we're on the subject, I can do an anecdote now. Okay, so we also, when it comes to denim in English, what do we make with denim we make jeans. So jeans. Where does that word come from? This is quite a related one. So this is bleu de. Is it de jeune? Is that with an E? Jeune? Bleu de jeune. I think it's bleu de jeune. Bleu de jeune, I think, is what it's from in French. Correct me if I'm wrong now. I'm not 100% sure about this now because I haven't looked it up. I'm just doing this as an aside spontaneously while I'm in the middle of this. So bleu de Nîmes is denim and bleu de jeune is jeans. And bleu de jeune, jeune in this case is Genoa or Geneva. I'm not sure. Or is it actually called Gen? I'm not sure. But it's certainly another place name from where they used to do the dyeing of cotton, dark cotton cloth with indigo. That became the word for jeans in English. So there we are. That's just an aside. There we are. So that's denim. So denim, not denim, but denim. Right. What else have we got? Chi plus a small e becomes che. A long vowel becomes che. And at the end, chain. And that is chain. And again, you got that long diphthong in English. That becomes just a long vowel in Japanese. Chain is chain. What else have we got? Well, I like this one. That is fu plus a small a becomes fa. And then we have she. But oh no, hang on. Sorry. Okay. It's easy to mix these up because before we have the she, we have a small half-sized tsu, which means that the following consonant is doubled, or the following mora is doubled. And then we have the she, and of course tsu and she next to each other, you can tell the difference. Now, I've noticed in when these are printed, letters are printed, the little lines on it are written in a slightly different angle. I don't usually do this when I write it by hand. I'll just show you now. So usually the she is written like that, and the, well, it's not so pronounced in the font I've been using, but the, yeah, tsu, so it's a little bit, well, they look like smileys a little bit. Anyway, those sort of wry smileys. Anyway, fashi, but this is going to have a little yo after it, which means it's fasho and then we end with an N. Fashion, and that is fashion. Hu plus small e becomes fi. Ku, and another shi plus a small yo becomes fiksho, and n at the end again, fiction, and that is fiction. And then we have hu plus small e becomes fe, and then we have ri and a long e, and that is an interesting one as well because that means ferry. But you would think that ferry was written hu e su ri ferry, but it isn't. So this is, I suppose that is, I'm not sure if they actually do doubling of the R sound at all in Japanese. I think that's something that's, I'm not sure if that would really work so well, ferry. Because of the way the R is pronounced, it's not really a liquid in Japanese so much, it's a tap. It's a so it's almost more like it's closer to a stop than it is to a glide, like you have an r or l as you do in other languages. So that's why you wouldn't, I think generally speaking, you wouldn't have ferry, wouldn't really work in Japanese, ferry. And because of that, there's a tendency for the vowel to get lengthened instead, even though it's the R sound that should have been lengthened. So this is a sort of an interesting one as well in terms of seeing how Japanese uses foreign words when they transcribe them into Japanese. I'm going to clear the board now so I can do a little bit more. So has everyone copied this down in the notebooks? Yes? Okay. It's too late now. Well, you can pause the video and go back, can't you? Unlike school. So we got fu plus a small o. So that's fo, and a long vowel, and ku, forku. That's an easy one. So that is fork, what you eat with. And again, you see that R sound, of course, is nowhere in the thing. It's it's just denotes a long vowel in standard British English, fork. So forku, it's very close in Japanese. Let's see, we've got ha, ro, u, but small e, haroi, long e, and Halloween, Halloween. That is Halloween. And again, you see the L in English becomes R in Japanese. And again, there's no doubling of the R sound. It's not Halloween. That doesn't work in Japanese. It's Halloween. So you never, I still have a theory that you never get a double R sound ever in Japanese. So Halloween, Halloween. So Halloween, Halloween. Let's do a country name, although I was planning to do a list of those later, actually. Just because I'm doing all the special ones now. One combination, one from the special set of katakana that isn't part of standard Japanese that you do actually see quite commonly in foreign loanwords is we. This is a sound that is quite natural for a Japanese person to make. It just isn't part of the syllabary of the normal language. It may have been in the past. It may even be in some dialects. I think maybe, am I thinking correct that maybe in Okinawan they still have some we sounds? I'm not sure. But we is a very natural sound for a Japanese person. So you would see that in some country names, for instance. And this is we ru. Zu, Werzu, Werzu, and that is the country Wales, Werzu. So that combination, the we, is one that is embraced by the Japanese, whereas many other combinations from this special set are avoided when possible. I'll give some examples of that in a moment as well. Another interesting one, they're all interesting. B, long E, B, to, long O, U, but with Dakuten becomes V. With a small half-sized E, it becomes V. And then we have N at the end. Beethoven. Beethoven. And this is the composer Beethoven. And this highlights another interesting thing about the way that Japanese transcribes foreign words. Beethoven. Because in English and in German, there is an H there. So you might think that it would be written Beethoven. Like so, Beethoven. But no, it isn't. If you have a combination of two consonants without any vowels between them, sometimes it depends what it is. If it is a combination of consonants where you would have an unvoiced vowel in Japanese, sometimes you could actually get both of them in there. But many combinations of consonants will not be transcribed in Japanese. So it depends what is the most dominant of those consonants. Beethoven, if you don't pronounce the H in Beethoven, it still sounds like Beethoven. So the H isn't there, and of course it would sound really strange in remove the whole Beethoven now. Really strange with Beethoven, because then you're transcribing what it is written like more than what it sounds like. So Beethoven is the closest to what it sounds like, because you don't want to add any extra syllables for the TH combination in the middle. Beethoven. So an important little thing to note. We will see other examples of that. I think I have other ones. Let's see. So we have U, but with Dakuten again, it becomes V. And then we have a small O sound. That is Vo, long O. And then we have Gu, Vogu, Vogu. That is Vogue magazine, for instance. Vogu. And another thing that you may have noticed already is that when you have a consonant at the end of a word that, of course, in English doesn't have a vowel after it, the tendency in Japanese, for good reason, is to use the U line of the syllabary. So foku, weruzu, vogu, because that U at the end has a tendency to be devoiced, and therefore it's quite a weak U, and so it is the one that would give you the closest approximation to pronouncing it without the vowel at the end. Foku, weruzu, vogu. Of course, it's most noticeable on the fork. The U is devoiced on the whales and vogue, because there are voiced consonants before. There will be more voicing on the vowel naturally. So, werzu, vogue, fork. So, as a rule of thumb, for most consonants, it will be the U line, except for the T and the D, in which case you choose the to and the do. And we'll get examples of that as well. Right. Other names, more So mo plus tsu, and tsu plus a small a becomes tsa. And to, and there's an example of what I just said. So we would have a t at the end. So Mozarto, Mozarto. That is Mozart, the composer again. So we've got Beethoven, we've got Mozart, got Shakespeare. Mozart, Sarto, sorry, not to. But of course, in the case of the to, you can't really have use the U line because that's a tsu. So when the other ones that aren't pronounced with a vowel at the end of the original word, you can use the U line, but for the T, of course, it's a tsu, so you can't use that. Mozartsu would sound really strange to a Japanese person. Mozarto, to. So that's to, it becomes the neutral if you just have that one. And of course, notice here the R is actually there. Because the root in this combination, it works rather well. The R, because very often the vowel of that comes now just before the T there is unvoiced or almost unvoiced. Mozarto, Mozarto. Because if you're thinking about the Beethoven, you might think that it was maybe written Mozarto, for instance, Mozarto, but it isn't. So Mozarto. So it works with the RT combination, because of the unvoicing of the vowel. Now this is again, these are things that you will sort of gradually get a feel for, I think. Now I want to do more of these, but this is quite a long episode already, so I'm going to do a second episode of these. So I'll leave it for now, and I'll get back to you in the next episode with more examples of foreign words in Japanese and names as well. So thank you for watching. Domo arigato and sayonara. Goodbye for now.